Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm here to talk about technology and how it never works when you want it to. But actually, just want to say thanks for being here. Today, I am going to talk about digital tools and how they can sit next to the jewelry bench, not in place of it. And I'm going to be talking about two different tracks. So one is about digital-first on-demand workflows, as well as how we can use 3D archiving to preserve the past into the future. And OK, this isn't working. So let's just do this like this. So just to introduce myself, I'm a fashion tech designer and a researcher at the Antwerp Royal Academy for a research group called INHORGENTA that connects digital art and contemporary technology. I also founded Mutani, which is a virtual to reality fashion brand that takes inspiration from fandom's favorite gaming characters, weapons, and lore, and translates it into wearable physical fashion collections. So as you can hear, I'm not a classic jewelry insider. I'm not from the jewelry industry per se. I come very much from the fashion and tech space. But I've definitely become known as a pioneer in the digital fashion space and learned a lot about a lot of new tools and technologies that have been coming up, and work with a lot of technology companies to see how we can adapt what they're working on and bring it into the fashion workflows. So, like I said, I'm a researcher at Intermatter at the Antwerp Royal Academy. The topic I work around is called the Proteus effect, where it's if you inhabit a game character for long enough, you start to adopt the behavioral qualities in everyday life. So it's really a topic around identity formation and how digital media influences who we are. And alongside that, we have my fashion brand, Mutani. And I kind of converge a lot of this together, using Mutani as the kind of test case for a lot of the research. So a lot of the digital tools that I've used in these spaces, I began discovering when I founded Mutani. It was originally a digital fashion agency that came up around 2021. There was a lot of hype around digital fashion. So we were one of the first to kind of work with augmented reality, as well as hologram fashion shows. You can see up there we did a fashion show at the Amsterdam Fashion Week. So holograms are a very interesting format for me. And we created, down the bottom you can see, this was a project we did with 6 designers from the Antwerp fashion department, turned all of their designs into game characters, and a lot of that did involve a lot of fine detail. Down the bottom you can see a lot of the close-up renders of all of the beautiful little details like zippers and trinkets and belt buckles and necklaces that we'd created for these game characters, and trying to really capture a lot of these pieces that were real in this digital space in a way that was beautiful, if not more magical than reality. And the ones on the top left, they're actually archive pieces from my master collection at the Antwerp fashion department that we had, like a septum ring, a brooch, and a few other pieces that we translated digitally and then created as an augmented reality wearable experience. So now we all know AR quite well. It's changed a lot over the years, but these were some very early experiments we had in the digital fashion space. So we moved from this digital fashion agency, and I pivoted back into the physical space because I was missing the tangible part of creation, and I thought it would be very interesting to connect the two. Initially, we'd done a lot of experiments. We were selling the digital items online, and then when someone would purchase the 3D item, we would create the piece in real custom to fit the wearer, and we had a lot of success with these types of drops. People were really willing to wait for this exclusive piece, that it was made just for them, and that they had this digital kind of keepsake that they could share and wear online before they received the physical item. So this became a bit the inspiration for Mutani as a fashion brand, which has a focus now on digital-first design. So I used a lot of the tools that I learned in the digital fashion agency and started building them into the traditional fashion production pipeline. So I call it a digital-first on-demand production pipeline, and that's the pipeline that I'm going to show you now, which started to take shape last year. We had funding from the city of Antwerp to build this up and test this out as a proof of concept. It was called the first Mutani Magic. It was a small accessories collection. I had never made accessories. I had never made jewelry, so it was my first rodeo. It was inspired by a weapon in an anime game called Genshin Impact. It's a very popular Chinese anime game. And they were designed to be everyday wearable pieces that reference your favorite characters and weapons in the game. So this was the inspiration behind our proof of concept. And as you can see, the whole collection here was designed first in 3D. So it started from this weapon, from this anime character, and we use that as a reference to extract like the shapes, the colors, the structure, and try to turn that into jewelry that if people saw it out on the street, they'd say, I recognize that game. I feel something familiar in that. Of course, if you play, but if you're just your regular person on the street, it wouldn't look like costume. It would still look like a nice piece. So the goal was to really form pieces that worked on your body in everyday life and not just in the game or as a costume. So once we defined the initial forms, everything was then created in 3D. It was clean 3D geometry. We were checking the thickness. We were checking wearability on the avatar, on the body, that we could see up front where things sit and how to change the proportions. And then also checking the different textures in all the different parts of the piece. So the same digital model we used here, then we used to drive 3D printing, casting and finishing. So this one file we then used across all different stages. And it was a way that we could minimize a lot of the prototyping process and a lot of the waste involved in that. Although through this experiment, I did find that 3D printing was quite wasteful in terms of the use of plastic. So the more we learn 3D printing in future and the better that technology becomes, I think the more efficient or less wasteful that will become in future. So this same model then drove all of the 3D printing, as I said. So here you can see it was all cast finished in the diamond district, and we had some custom crystals added. And you can see there we have some lovely unboxings online. There's some earrings, a little bow hair clip, some bolo cat hair elastics, a little necktie, bolo tie, some more star hair clips, and some ear cuffs. So I know you're all in the jewelry industry here, so please, don't judge me on this. It's my first time creating jewelry, so I hope you like it. I'd love your feedback if you're willing to give it to me. But it was interesting first experiment into creating fashion in more hard materials. And fortunately, I do live in Antwerp, so I have a lot of jewelry help at my disposal. So that was lucky. So up until now, you've kind of seen the inside part of the process, but if you want to scan this QR code, then you can experience how these pieces appear when you're shopping for them as a customer. So it opens our website, and you'll find there a 3D web viewer. So we have some very high fidelity 3D web viewings of the pieces that really capture the texture properly. And this also opens up an augmented reality try-on experience where you can see the pieces, for example, the ear cuff, on your own face. And you'll also find that if you wave your hands in front of it, that it reacts appropriately and realistically, which is really nice. So now you can explore it now, or you can explore it later, but it's just a nice little experience to see how it looks like as a shopper. So here you can see from the product page, although that's not playing. Yeah, it's a bit delayed, sorry. But here on the website, you'll see that you can kind of scroll around and check out all the pieces virtually. And then, like you see, our friend Sarah, who developed the augmented reality aspect. You can try all of the pieces on yourself, and it really looks quite beautiful and realistic, I have to say. And you'll find that there's a lot of startups right now working on building out these try-on systems with AI. So submitting a photo of yourself, for example, and then automatically imposes the piece onto your body, matching the kind of environment and the light. And it's really starting to get there. I think the benefit of augmented reality right now is that you can move, it's a video format, but I have no doubts that AI will get to this point as well. So in a way, like working like this means that you can start selling your products from the digital file alone, and that you don't have to have stock on hand. And that's why we tested it as an on-demand process, and that's also why we use 3D printing to create this collection. So AR is not only a really great fitting tool, it's also, in a way, a good stage for marketing. So again, you can use that one file and turn it into effects that you can share on social media like TikTok. Yeah, I mean, also previously on Instagram, but that has been shut down. So it's mostly TikTok filters at the moment. So you can, like in this example, if I play it again, sorry. We used an AI object tracking, so when you hover the phone over the physical piece, it unlocks an experience that turns you into an anime character from the game, where you can swipe through and try on all the pieces. And of course, if you create something fun and potentially viral such as this, then your work can very easily spread very quickly. And you also have something very fun that you can show your friends when you're physically wearing it. Hey, scan my earring, and then suddenly you have an experience that you can all share together. So it's a really fun way that you can embed the concept and the storytelling into the piece and really build up a narrative and build up your branding. So, yes. So why digital and why now? So there's a lot of pressure to build digital into the workflow nowadays, and there's also a lot of resistance. But I think it's important to choose what works for you and your values and your ideas about how you want to build up your work and your name and your brand. So in the sense with the digital first on-demand pipeline, it's good because the customers can see it before they make the commitment. You can have more effective use of materials and preserve your labor time. You're not creating anything that's not going to sell. And you can create stories around your concept, around your work. Also build an archive, a digital archive that can live beyond you. And it can also be shared internationally, online or worldwide. You can also exhibit digitally as well as physically. Like you saw in the hologram fashion show I showed you earlier, you can share it all over the world. Oops. So here I have from model to metal. This is how I worked. I started with the concepts. I built the 3D model. That 3D model informed the entire e-commerce view with a 3D web viewer, the AR try-on. And then we used 3D printing to make to order on demand. And then we use the 3D files as part of our archive that will live on forever, as long as we have electricity. So here's a few cases that I want to share that work with the same systems. So for our 3D web viewer, we used a startup called 3Dium, and they're honestly the best on the market. They have a whole platform where you can build in your 3D models, you can change the textures, the lighting, and they're working with all the big brand names. And they're also building out AI products, photography setups so that you can stage and create scenes and editorials with your work. So in this case, you see they did a website for Taylor and Hart where you can select the color or the metal, you can select the shape of the gem, you can select the size, you can change the type of gem you want to use. So it means that your customers can see everything up front. In this case, they didn't use augmented reality, but then you can build augmented into that workflow so that then you could try it on in front of the camera. So again, you're only producing what's ordered. There's less dead stock. There's less questions around, does it suit me? Do I like it? La la la. And there are a lot of really great stats on how AR works. It's been heavily tested. So customers are able to see the piece, like I said, on their own body. It gives you the confidence. So yeah, 75% of customers say they want AR features. This was a 2025 study that was done. 40% are more likely to purchase. So it's really great for e-commerce. There's a great sell-through. And 35% less returns, which is so good for the stock situation, obviously, which is, every fashion brand's hell is the stockroom. I'm not sure about the jewelry department, but yeah, stock is a big issue. And then, of course, the shareable experiences of social media, and it's also a gateway to Gen Z or the younger generations, obviously. We also see a lot of brands moving into the gaming space, spaces like Roblox, etc. I've seen a lot of luxury brands trying to create a lot of these gaming experiences to capture the younger markets. So that's also an interesting space to move into. That would be next in line after your AR experience would be an asset in a game, if you want to take it that far, or an entire game around your brand if you have the funds, because game design is very expensive. So, a warning. Case C, building that file into your archive. So, you can really capture your pieces realistically, accurately. There is a lot of craft in 3D work. This is de-archive. They're some friends of mine, and they're on a mission to work with collectors, museums, to preserve pieces that would usually rot away in history, pieces that you could never normally access as a member of the public or touch. They're capturing these pieces really accurately in 3D in such a way that you can see in great detail, zoom in, zoom out, access the patterns, access the lore, the history around the garment. So using it as an educational tool for museums. And I know that there are a lot of museums right now who are looking for new and interesting ways to share information, to again engage younger audiences. I think this is quite an issue right now, is building that connection with younger audiences, building up an interest in history, in preservation. So they're really doing great work around this. So it's nice to think of, everything you create, you could attach metadata, you can attach the year, the materials, the stones, the story behind it, and it can live for all time. You saw a lot of luxury brands, watch brands, and also jewelry brands who were entering the blockchain space early on with NFTs. And I think the attraction there was that you can upload your digital asset or your piece online, and that it's a public record, and you can always see how it transacts, who it moves on to. There's also a lot of luxury brands building in microchips into their pieces so that you can attach the digital experience to the physical products. Now we have talk about the digital product passports under the ESG laws so that customers can access the story and the ownership behind the product. So there's a lot of innovation happening, a lot of talk happening, a lot of startups building around how to track and trace ownership over time. So that's a very interesting space to keep an eye on, especially as the laws change in Europe. I think by 2027, we all have to start thinking about the ESG aspects of our workflows. So I think having these digital files and keeping track of ownership and attaching the physical and the digital together is really worth thinking about if you want to build a brand that lasts. So I also want to just offer some thoughts about what this could mean for you. I don't know what everyone does here in the jewelry industry, whether you have a brand, you have a studio, whether you're a craftsperson, whether you're a corporate entity sourcing gems. I don't know what you're up to, but I thought I'd provide some food for thought, some questions you could consider regarding your own practice, rather than instructions or a call to you must use digital. But it's nice to think about how you might embed it alongside what you're already doing to help you with efficiency, saving time, or sustainability, or just thinking about how you can carry on your legacy digitally. I'm just going to sip some water because I'm thirsty. So, here I've listed with design and production. Where are you currently guessing when it comes to material and time? What are the parts that are getting wasted? And which pieces could exist as a flexible 3D system? So like I said, could you condense it to one piece and have certain customizable elements that create a more efficient workflow that people can make a selection online and then you can build it on demand? E-commerce and clients. So what are your clients saying when they look at the piece online? What's missing when it comes to going from the visual and going into the sale? If they can't picture it on themselves, do they need to come into the store? Do they need to try it on? Is that the moment they say yes? Is there a way that you can facilitate that online so that you can distribute more internationally or outside of your brick and mortar store scope? Could this 3D and AR reduce doubts and create new marketing material for you? I think we all feel a lot of pressure with content right now. It's just the more content, the merrier. If you're building 3D into your workflow already, it will make your life a lot easier in terms of the photo shoots, content production, the virtual try-ons and things like that. It just means that it's already there to work with, especially in an age of AI. You can already use those 3D pieces and then build up content around those with AI image generation tools. And when it comes to heritage and story, which of your pieces do you think deserve to be known 50 years on? What are your most popular pieces? And how can you preserve them? How could a 3D archive make your knowledge more shareable? And how could you exhibit, for example, online to showcase all over the world virtually or in a hologram? That's always fun too. But how can you distribute using the virtual tools as a guide?